the LaxFactor podcast. What is up, college lacrosse fans? You're watching episode 216 of the LaxFactor podcast. I am your host, Ted Hoost, and today I want to talk about North Carolina commit Brevin Wilson and why I think that by the time I'm done reviewing all of the top 50 players inside of the Inside Lacrosse 2024 class, that I think he might be, if not one of my favorites, maybe even my favorite player in that class. Before I get into it, as always, be sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that notification bell so you know when I pop out videos because I'm so erratic in the off season. And if you're a listener, please share. Let your friends know what we're doing here and all that good crap. But let me dive into this here because, you know, the weird thing about this kid and why I like him is he reminds me of some players that I've coached, but he also reminds me of some players from the past. He has a not quite right way of carrying his stick that you see it a lot in dudes who aren't necessarily the guy that you're going to pick out in line drills. You're not going to let's say you didn't scout this kid. Let's say you didn't scout this team. You're just some idiot coach that shows up to play these guys. Or maybe you're coaching them in the summer and you don't even know who's on the roster of this team. You're not necessarily going to spot this kid ripping through line drills as the dude who's about to put 6+ points up on you. That's just not. He doesn't have a way of carrying his stick or himself in terms of how he plays that would indicate that he's a killer and he's going to knife you for a bunch of points, goals and assists alike. Kind of reminds me of the Kavanaughs a little bit here, a lot of Ryder Garnsey, and you see this a lot. You'll see these dudes, you got to watch out for them because they are sneaky good and they will wreck you. Now, one thing is he's small. We're talking 5'7", 155. At least that's what he was listed at. He's going to grow a little bit, I'm sure. But despite that small size, in a couple of the highlights that you'll see here as I rip through this, he's not afraid to lean fully on his defender to kind of gain that leverage, get even lower than his 5'7" frame already has him to kind of make up for some of that size. But the fact that he's fearless plays into it already anyway. So I as I watched him, I was surprised because he did not look or play like he was 5'7", 155 pounds. Maybe that was even a misprint or some crap like that. He can finish highlight reel goals, but you wouldn't notice it. Like I said, in terms of his stick skills. I mean, he'll stick things that are incredible. He'll stick dive goals. He will dive. He will sell his body out to get that single. And once again, that's why I kind of end up drawing comparisons to him to someone like Ryder Garnsey, because in the end, he'll do anything he has to do to try to get a goal. And the current Kavenaugh brothers, I think, both play kind of like that as well. But it makes him crazy fun to watch. Like, he's willing to sacrifice his body, dive. He's willing to get after GBs and attack the cage. He kind of has the mentality of a true goal hawk. He's like a dog. One of the things I said in the article right here, he's like a dog that loves squirrels. He sees a ball on deck and he thinks goal. So if he's around the cage and there's a loose ball riding situation, he's going to go after it. Now, if we dive in here and we kind of go through and we start looking at his offensive traits, deadly on the wraparound from X. And what I say here, he's small, but he's shifty quick. So even against bigger defenders, they're not able to kind of use their size to push him off the line, as they got to kind of focus all their efforts on just keeping their feet and staying in front of him. He's not the fastest person, like in terms of, and we'll see this here, in terms of actual speed. We can hop over here to Inside Lacrosse's Madden ranking ratings of this kid. You see speed at this review was a 4.25. Speed on this review was a 4.5, but his agility was what was good. 4.5 here, so 4.5, 4.5, that's pretty solid. That's a dude who can, move on the field. But this is what I noticed. 4.25 in speed, not the fastest dude as he's sprinting, but in terms of that change of direction when needed, or that first step, he has an excellent first step. So I really like that. And that strength, yeah, he's little. So you got to kind of keep a dude who's little under 4. In terms of ratings, what did they do down here in this one? Same thing, 3.75, 3.75. But like I said, you don't notice it when you're playing, and you've already seen some highlights roll here, and you can kind of see he doesn't look like he is all that small, even though that's the way he is listed. So that was one part. And one of the other knocks on his ratings here was, you see in terms of his shooting, they gave him a 4 here, but his finishing a 4.5. And then on this other rating, his shooting, they gave him a 4.25 and finishing 4.25. That's too low. I'd put this kid at a 4.5, 4.75 for his finishing. Now, granted, I watched his highlight cut only. So I mean, I'm seeing the best of this kid. I'm not seeing his true shooting percentage. Like we'll get to see it at the college level, but just in what I saw, he has all of the mechanics and the makings of one of those dudes who just scores goals, and everyone's like, "How the hell is this dude doing this?" But he does it. So not a sniper, but an excellent finisher of the rock. And even if he doesn't bring the smoke, all that matters is, are you going to put the ball past goalies when called upon? This kid can do that. Can get underneath guys from the wing, quit. And that just ties into the jitterbug aspect of it. He's not a full jitterbug. A jitterbug, I think, has a little bit more speed than he has. But in terms of just his ability to be able to get that step and his mixed with his lacrosse IQ, he's able to, kind of not just dodge from X, like I said, because those wraparounds from X, he is an absolute monster. And you see in his highlight cut, he just does it over and over, both left and the right side. But even from the wing, he is more than capable overall. Excellent option is kind of a second dodge out of a set. So let's say you have a guy, North Carolina might have a guy dodge to the rack. He could be that two dodge when they swing the ball, because if he's just one of those dudes that he doesn't need a lot of steps, let's say, to get himself open and get his hands free and get a shot off. And in some cases, very much, once again, I know people hate comparisons, but very much like a Garnsey or a Kavenaugh, even when he's covered, he's able to still get that shot off. I'm not going to paint him like Chris Gray, but in the way that he wraps around the cage and gets shots off despite defenders being in decent positions, it does feel a little bit like that. And, so anywhere within that 10 to 12 yards, the kid is, he's pretty much a born finisher of the rock. Rides well, hustles, seems to play well within the riding scheme. So as I'm watching these highlight cuts, I know I'm only seeing the best of the plays, but in what was included, both hustle, and there's a highlight where I'm going to roll it, where he's going to dive to take the ball away from somebody on a ride. And then in another part, you'll see he's going to be disciplined in the team scheme for the riding, because as they're double teaming a player in the, on the sideline at one point, it helps force the turnover. He picks it up and takes off upfield. Now, if we're talking about inside lacrosse here, this is one of the analysis of Brevin here. Wilson's game relies on his quick first step and explosiveness dodging. From there, he does a great job reading the defense and either turning the corner or separating to clear his hands as a feeder. Wilson had somewhat of a breakout performance at main stage, as it felt like he was almost always at the end of plays, attacking defenses with an elite first step and superb vision. While he's just 5'7", he possesses a rather well-rounded skill set and has excellent hands that allow him to move keepers. Perhaps on occasion, even his older brother Goose, a top 50 recruit in Carolina, commit in goal. The younger, I read that terribly, sorry. The younger Wilson is just as and fearless. That doesn't even make sense. The younger Wilson is just as and fearless. But we're going to stop that. We're going to stop reading that there now, because that sentence didn't even make sense, and that's a copy and paste here, I can say. So that doesn't make sense on Inside Lacrosse probably either, unless I'm just having a stroke at this moment, which I could. So you can see a link here, though, off to the Inside Lacrosse recruiting. It was from their catching up on the class of 2024 commitments here. Overall, though, my impression of this kid, not the fastest player in the class, but like I said, he's quick like a jitterbug. I did give him the jitterbug moniker here. He plays much bigger than his size, and he effectively soaks checks and is willing to take punishment for the payoff of a goal, and you can't coach that. There's kids that you can coach the skill. You can put them in the right position to score goals. You cannot coach someone being willing to just sacrifice everything to get that goal. That's something that I saw in him that I really liked. A legit finisher of the rock and fairly deadly from inside 8 yards. People hate comparisons, as I said earlier, but the Kavanaughs and Ryder Garnsey come to mind. He doesn't carry his stick in a traditional manner, but he is a killer. Nonetheless, will score some sick goals, both within sets, in transition, and while the ball is on the deck. Capable feeder, high IQ. There's a ton I like about this kid, and UNC picked up a solid guy that can outperform his number 48 ranking when all is said and done, and I believe that. And I believe that because, like I said, I've seen dudes like this come out, and when you have a guy who's fearless, willing to play within the team system, is a solid finisher, but then can kind of do a little bit of everything, these kids tend to find a way onto the field here. Now, his size may play. I doubt it. There's a lot of guys that are his size and stature that end up killing it. So I think that UNC really did pick up a gem, and I expect, you're not going to see him jump on the field, I don't think, next year. Maybe not even as a sophomore, but I think at some point over the course of his four-year career at UNC, the kid is going to find his way onto the field, and he is going to definitely help them offensively.